Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about adequate clearance. What is adequate clearance? So adequate clearance is the amount of space that you would try to leave as you go around objects. So it could be a parked car, could be a skip, could be a truck, things like that. So generally speaking, our normal driving position is a metre away from the left, so we would try to leave a metre away as we go past things like parked vehicles, in this case this yellow car. Why a metre? A metre because if you think about what could happen, so say like with this car, a door could open. A door length is going to be about a metre, so that's why we choose that number. It's not just a number that's randomly picked out. That's the reason why we choose that number. But also it could be protective of things like, for example, if a pedestrian steps out from in front of this yellow vehicle, then it's going to give you adequate space to clear that vehicle, or that pedestrian rather. Okay, so how would we go around this vehicle? We would start by checking our interior mirror, right mirror, decide if you need to signal or not, although generally this isn't the case, because we wouldn't normally signal round parked vehicles. It could get quite confusing because you might mislead people into thinking you're trying to turn into a driveway, or if I go a little bit further up here, they may think you're trying to turn right. So you have to be very careful with signalling. I'm not going to say that it's never necessary, but you do need to be careful with the signal. So make that decision, and then once you've passed the parked vehicle or the object, then check your interior mirror, left mirror, and then you can gradually work your way back in again once you can see the object in your left mirror. Make sure you can see the vehicle before you come back, because you don't want to skim across this parked car, just in case. So what about things like more vulnerable road users, like a cyclist? They would be different. Cyclists would be different, or motorbikes and things like that. We would generally allow them more space because they tend to be quite unpredictable. So for example, with a stationary object like a car or truck and things like that, we would leave a metre, which we've just talked about. But with a cyclist, we would want to leave about 1.5 meters, so we just give them extra space just in case. Why would we do that? Well, because cyclists tend to move around a lot, so they may, for example, try to avoid a manhole cover. There could be a pothole in the road. The surfaces of the road tend to be a little bit more dodgy, shall we say, along the sides near the curb. So yeah, that tends to lead to them moving in and out quite a lot. So 1.5 meters is going to give, or 1.5 length if you like, is going to give them a bit more space, and it's going to give us a bit more room to work with as well. And pretty much we'd do the same thing. So we check our interior mirror, right mirror, signal if necessary, and then we would proceed to go past them. Once we can see them in our left mirror at the very least, but I'd check the interior mirror and the left mirror. Once we can see them in our mirrors, then we can gradually come back in. Again, we don't want to cut in too quickly, because it could lead to a problem if we haven't seen them, and you know, that they may be closer than we thought. So we'd want to actually give ourselves a good amount of space away from them before we decide to come back in again. And last but not least, finally, how do we judge how fast we can go around objects with adequate clearance? So if you think of it this way, a metre, which is what we would be looking for most of the time, is 3 feet. 1, 2, 3. So think of it this way: for every foot you have to go closer to the object, you're going to lose 10 miles an hour. So for example, if you can only go around an object with about a foot apart, then the maximum you would do is 10 miles an hour. If you have to go closer, then you're going to go even slower. So less space, less speed. That's the best way to think of it. But yeah, obviously if you can give it more, so say if it's 2 feet, then you could do a maximum of 20 miles an hour, etc. But that's how you're going to be able to work out how fast you can go around these objects with adequate clearance. So I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you again in the next video.